Live. Peace to the saints. We are live here for a unique discussion, debate. Today's topic, should one woman have multiple men?
Peace to the saints. We are live here for a unique...
One sec. All right, there we go. We had a little bit of feedback. So we're going to introduce our guest, which is Kenya Stevens. I'll allow her to introduce herself briefly. And we're going to prioritize the questions that you all send in per usual. So Kenya's going to give us a little bit of background. We're going to hear about her lifestyle, her life situation, her beliefs, how she living. And then we're going to see if it lines up with this ism. You dig? Talk to us, Kenya.
How are you doing? My name is Kenya K. Stevens. I'm CEO here at Progressive Love Academy, which I've run for the past 17 years. Been married 26 years. I have 4 children, 2 husbands, and several other partners. And I'm here to talk shop with you. What's going on, Marquette?
Well, it's Marquette with the smooth Q. Like I told you, you pronouncing my name like them white folks, but I'm going to forgive you for it right now.
Marquette.
Yeah, there you go.
Like wet.
Ooh, you already talking. So you didn't already started off and went straight in. You said you got 2 husbands, yes, bunch of kids. You live in Black Brady Bunch style. And I think the first question I have is, where did this all start? Because I'm going to go ahead and say this ain't normal.
Well, I feel it's very normal. It's just not normal to tell the truth about it. So where this all, I mean, we remember going to church and you hear about everybody at church. They got a family across town. So-and-so father got another baby over across town. This is very normal. It's just, it doesn't have to hurt. It doesn't have to hurt our communities and our families. So where did this all start? Oh my goodness. I've been married 26 years. At year number 4, I believe it was at year number 4, I found myself feeling feelings for another man. And I told my husband, I told my marriage counselors, and they said, nix it, you gotta do away with this. And so I did, but I would have dreams about the guy.
Good. You was in there deep. Well, my first question for you is like, how did you end up being around this guy to develop such feelings?
At community, like church, we had a spiritual organization.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, he was one of the drummers. I guess you can't keep your wife in a cage, you know. But my husband had feelings about other women as well. We would talk about it. So it was like, oh, she's cute, or oh, he's handsome. Or
well, we have to be precise with diction because you're talking about feelings. You talking about dreams. Yeah, those are feelings. Mm-hmm. But if your husband like, damn, she thick, I don't think that's a feeling. That's a sexual urge. That's an urge. That's lust. But yes, you're talking about dreams. Somebody penetrated your subconscious.
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, this is a very natural human thing because humans are not a monogamous species. Monogamous species don't hang out with others in the species. They hang like gibbons in trees with just their family unit, or in an enclave underground with just their family unit. Humans are not at all a monogamous species. We're very social species.
See, now
monogamous species don't watch pornography, don't watch others of the species who are having sex. Do you watch pornography sometimes?
I don't watch pornography, love. But we gonna get into it. And before we do, let's hit a couple of these questions because you've already gone off the rails. You went off quick. I thought you was gonna ease in. You didn't jumped off, but we gonna bring you back.
With you, Marquette.
Yeah, we gonna bring you back. Let us hit a couple of these super chats. Bridget, talk to us. What we got?
So we have Casper. He said, won't be able to watch live. I'll catch replay on Patreon. I'm a man of reason, but damn it, this makes no sense. Peace to the saints.
You ain't lying, brother. It don't make no sense. We gonna talk about it. Appreciate the tuition. Talk to us.
We have Vince, JT, the Red Pillager. He said, as per usual, they are trying to obtain what a man can have if he is worthy and responsible. Specious way of living will never work. Peace to the saints. We'll catch the replay.
We gonna talk about that too. You dig? And shout out to the saints who are able to tune in. I know a lot of folks have to be at work right now during business hours. You caught up?
Situation, but we'll go carry on.
Okay, no, let's talk about it. Okay, so don't carry on next time. Go straight through it, like I asked you to. Thank you. Now, you already confused a couple things, which I find problematic, although it is indeed in line with the sick culture that's prevalent today. You've said humans. Yes, we are both human, but let us not confuse the male and the female, which have different biology, different nature, and therefore will display different behavior, especially when they're living naturally. So you went ahead and said we're not monogamous as humans. No. Well, yeah, there's some truth to that. But some of the things you referenced when you said so-and-so got a whole family across town, Tyrone got a baby mama here, a baby mama there. Yeah, that's the men. You dig? So you're talking about now the women doing this, and that's when it becomes disgusting and problematic.
Why? Women have always done this. Why does a male create spermicide in his sperm? This is called natural selection. I don't know if you study science. I think this sounds more like a religious group, but what we're talking about is science. So males, human males, produce a spermicide in their sperm.
Okay.
This is not about like me or what I believe. This is just science. You can test your sperm today. It has a spermicide in it. Why do you think that is?
Go ahead, talk to me.
You talk to me. You're the one saying that what I'm saying is incorrect. Male sperm produces spermicide. What could that mean? What
that means is that males are competing against other males to propagate their species.
Oh, but
what I should let you know is that as a female, you're nearly a battlefield. But here's the thing. When you are, as a female, taking the sperm of multiple men,
which we are, which all of us have been for hundreds of thousands of years, because males create spermicide in their sperm.
But let me be clear.
Males would have no need to have spermicide in their sperm.
Let me be clear. We are doing that so that we can monopolize the female to propagate our species.
But if it weren't natural and normal for women to have several different sperm in her tract, then there would be no reason for natural selection to create spermicide in the sperm.
You're getting out of control because
women don't do that. Women aren't about that. Women don't have sex with more than one man in a lifetime. Women don't do that. So natural selection itself, I'm not talking about me, my beliefs, God, nothing. I'm talking about science.
Let me help you out with some science. Number one, the vagina is a very sensitive thing, and I'm sure you're familiar with the sensitive nature of the vagina, such that you end up with yeast infections. It even recommends that women wear breathable underwear. It even recommends that women are showering twice a day. And
with yeast infections, I don't get yeast infections.
I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, sure. What happens with
Are you interrupting me, or are you gonna let me talk?
No, we were talking about sperm and spermicide. I wanted you to answer why, which you didn't. Why does natural selection?
To answer your question, you have to stop talking at some point.
But yeast infections?
You're talking right now. I can't answer.
Oh, beloved, you want to have a debate. Let's go. Keep up.
Right.
Talk to me about why there is spermicide.
We both have to be able to talk. So you have to stop talking for me to answer questions.
I will stop talking. Answer the question.
I appreciate it. I got you.
Let's not talk about yeast infections.
First off, if you were listening, I already answered it. I said number one, because the males are competing to propagate their species, which is to say to have offspring.
Yes.
And the male intention is to monopolize the female. And if you observe in many of the species, it is the male that is polygynous.
Right.
Engaging in one male with multiple females. And if you look among the gorillas and the way they behave, their effort is to hurt or marginalize other males that seek to overtake their female.
Yes,
so it is always upon the aggressive male large mammal to pursue and dominate the female. But what you're doing is actually antithetical to that, because you're pursuing other males.
Antithetical to
you should be pursued.
I'm doing antithetical things to the gorillas. What we are from is the bonobos. Have you studied the bonobos? Because the humans are closer to bonobos than gorillas. Bonobos, the women, the men, the children, everyone has sex. It is not something that is capitalized by men or.
So the children are having sex with the adults. Is that what you're saying?
You have to study bonobos.
I'm asking you. You're saying that.
I'm saying that the female bonobos have multiple sex partners. The male bonobos have multiple sex partners.
You're saying that did you say that the children have sex with the adults among the bonobos?
I said the female bonobos have sex with whichever of the males she wants. The male bonobos have sex with whichever of the females she wants. And that's how they keep from fighting. They utilize sex
on a biological level
and community to come together. And we're more closely related to bonobos than gorillas.
Let's talk about the difference between human. Let's talk about the difference between human biology and bonobo biology.
It's much closer than human versus gorilla biology.
Do you believe that it is clean for you? Because honestly, when you said you got two husbands and multiple partners on the side, I'm just imagining a bunch of guys lined up and running through you like a track meet. So like you over here with cream pie draws, and the semen can last in the vagina for 5 days.
Yes.
So
it's very good for the vagina.
You believe that it is clean to have multiple men's semen within your vagina within the same 5-day period?
Yes, because I believe men are clean. Now, if you believe that men are unclean, then you believe that you are unclean. Is that what you're sharing?
Oh, Lord. I believe that it is extremely nasty to have a semen cocktail swimming around in your vagina with multiple
You
men.
think that men are dirty. You think semen is dirty.
I just stated that it is nasty to have a semen cocktail
men
of
are nasty
multiple
and semen is
semens in your vagina.
What you're
And
sharing is that
let's talk
semen
science,
is
because you were
nasty.
talking science before. You want to talk science? Here it is.
Let's do it.
You've heard of oxytocin. This is a bonding chemical.
Yes, beautiful.
When the female is healthy, just as when the male is healthy, when you lay down with another human being for intercourse, it releases oxytocin.
Bonding, yes.
It releases a lot more oxytocin in the female versus the male, which is to say females are more inclined to build emotional bonds.
Of course.
Sadly, what you've talked about so far is all sexual, which lets me know that you're oriented on the physicality rather than the mental, spiritual, and emotional connection.
Oh, well, you haven't asked me any
Hold
questions.
on 1 second, love.
This is not an interview. I'm happy to hang up
love.
right now if you're not going to ask me
If you would
questions.
stop interrupting, I might be able to get my point
sharing
across.
is something that you haven't
If
asked
you
me
would
about.
stop.
You have no idea what my lifestyle is. You have no idea what I do. You have no idea what my books are about. You have no idea what my movement is about. You asked me to come here, and now you're making an accusation about sex when you've not asked me one question about my lifestyle.
I could finish
All you
my
asked
point.
me was, when is the first time?
Well, you don't have
I
to get
felt
angry. You just got to let me finish my
with
point, and
another
then I
man,
will yield
and
the
I
floor.
shared that with you. I shared with you that my first time thinking about another man was at year 4 of my marriage. Then you cast it.
Why must
You're
you get angry when I'm
dreaming
using
about another
science?
man, and that's negative. If we're gonna have a conversation, you're going to have to ask questions.
You can't get
like an interview. Otherwise, I can just hang up this phone because I don't need to be in a scenario where I'm not being asked questions and you're making accusations. I don't know about your marriage. I don't know about your lifestyle. I didn't call you to ask you about your lifestyle. You called me and came to me to ask me about my lifestyle. What are the questions that you have? If you only have accusations, we can get off of this interview, right? I won't.
Would you
I know you're not used to women confronting you.
It's not about confronting. It's about being
confronting you to share with you that you approach
this is how we know that your husband is not managing
and
you
if
properly
you
because
like
you're too angry to
do an
communicate.
interview, then you can ask me questions. Accusations,
if
the
you're
next
angry,
one, I'm hanging up the phone. And I have a right to be angry. I have a right to be sad. I have a right to be happy. I have a right to be ecstatic, just like I have the right to sleep with whomever I want.
I did not deny your right, but
I can love whoever I want. It's my heart, and I can think however I want. It's my mind. So
why
is
it that you get so angry when I start talking about
accusations? Ask me a question. Ask me a question. Try.
If you calm down.
Try as an interviewer.
If you calm down.
Try to ask one question.
Why do you believe that over talking is going to make you intelligent?
Because you're not going to bowl me over with your bullshit. Ask me a question.
Now you're cursing. There's
no need I will curse, yes.
There's no need
Be a professional interviewer and ask.
We never told you that you were being interviewed. When Bridget reached out to you, she let you know that you were
what you're approaching me with is male insecurity. Because you're angry with male insecurity. I like being angry. There's nothing wrong with being angry. I love it. I love being angry.
This is why
I love being orgasmic, just as I love being free, just as I love being intelligent, just as I love being fabulous. So there's nothing wrong with any emotion. So you talk to me and ask me a question.
Why don't you calm down? So
I will not calm down. You will ask me a question.
It's very clear that you don't want the truth to
I would love it. I want the truth. You have to ask. You're not going to make accusations about me on this.
And this is exactly why I know the males in your life have taught you nothing.
And then I can respond to your question.
You're showing the most base
the format
that
we will use.
You're showing the most base female behavior. You're completely out of control.
That is
and you
the format
a life coach, a relationship coach. Why don't you calm down?
What is
your have a conversation when you overtalk people.
Ask me a question.
Is this how you overtalk your husbands? Are any of your husbands home right now?
I
Are
think
any
you're
of your
ready
husbands
now,
home right now? I would
and I
love to
think
talk
you're
to them.
ready to ask a question. So let's try it.
Are any of your husbands home? I would love to talk to them because I cannot believe that you would speak over anyone in this kind of way and misrepresent
Absolutely.
yourself and misrepresent your family. The truth is you're lying. You said it was an interview. On the title of this video, it says debate. When Bridget emailed you, it said debate 5 times. D-E-B-A-T-E, debate.
Well, let's
Further,
debate.
whether
Debates are about questions
one
too. They're
second,
not
Ron.
about accusations.
Further, whether it's a debate or an interview, you still have to yield the floor so that the other person can talk.
Please do.
I've not come here to disrespect you. I have a tremendous amount of appreciation
it.
for someone who
Let's
can
start
stand
over
up
from
for
the
what
top.
they believe.
I'm gonna
But
grab
I don't understand why you would be so angry that you have to talk over another person.
Oh, because you're not going to accuse me of anything. You don't know me, beloved.
Well, you're right. I don't
You
know.
don't know me.
And
Ask
if you
question.
feel as though you're being accused, why not do the civilized thing? Wait until I stop speaking and say, Marquette, I don't agree with what you said. You've misrepresented me. This is who I am. This is what I believe. But instead, you start having outbursts, which to me does not represent anyone who should be worthy of leading anybody.
Oh, good. So there's another accusation. Do you have a question now?
Why are you so angry and combative?
I'm not angry right now, but I was, and I will get angry again. I like getting angry. It's fun. Rakim, you've been invited to a debate/interview with Marquette. He's here and he's talking to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, he has a question for you.
Is this one of your husbands
He
here?
can only ask men questions, so that's why I called you.
Is this one of your husbands that's on the phone?
He's my first husband of 26 years.
Okay.
How long have you been married, Marquette?
Hi. What's the gentleman's name?
Rakim Sekou.
Rakim. How are you, Rakim?
I'm doing great.
Good to hear. I was here with your wife. She was kind enough to grant us some time to have a conversation with her, and she wanted to talk science. And I started explaining to her the realities of oxytocin and the implications of that for male and female bonding and the difference between the way the male bonds and the female bonds. As I was explaining it, she started over talking me, becoming loud, and eventually started cursing. My question to you is this the kind of thing that occurs in your household, and do you condone this kind of thing?
Condone what? Loud talking and cursing?
Anyone, and especially your wife, a woman, over talking you while you're speaking calmly to share some knowledge.
Do I condone her over talking me? That's an interesting question. No, I don't condone it. I mean, I don't condone that from anyone. So it's not really a wife thing. But I do allow it, if it's done within container. So we have a particular communication protocol that we follow where you're allowed to, voice your opinions and your emotions in a certain way. So if it's done within container, then it's fine. Or if I see that, she's in a particular emotional place and doesn't have complete control over her emotions, which we all have that from time to time, then I'll, support her in that same way.
Well, I appreciate you sharing the way you guys engage things in your household. I find that me as a man, if my woman were out in the public and she was over talking someone, I would find that to be extremely embarrassing to me, my family name, her, and all that we represent. And I would certainly ask her to present herself for apology, not that she was doing someone else wrong, but rather she was making us look uncivilized. Because the truth is, as we mature, especially if we purport to be teachers, we should be an example. And that's why not many of us should be teachers. I find it extremely shocking and disappointing. Do you try to teach her to improve this, or are you just in the position of I'm going to deal with it and try to understand it?
So I'll give a little context. Rakim Sekou, I'll give a little context.
Is she going to overtalk you, brother, or are you going to answer the question?
But now he's overtalking me because I just said I would give some context, and the man who's saying
Rakim, I just asked you a question, sir. Will you be answering it, or will she be over talking you?
I'll 100% allow my wife to add context so I can know what the hell is going on.
Good.
Well, I just asked you a question. There is no context needed. I realize that you just got on the phone. I explained the background, will you be overtalked by her, or will you step up as a male leader and answer a man's question when he addresses you directly?
As a male fully in his masculine and fully in his leadership, I will purvey the situation and decide how I'm going to respond and when, and from whose input I'm going to take. And so I appreciate your perspective and your opinion and the way you do things. But as a man, that in no way is going to dictate or influence how I respond or what I do.
So your wife will dictate it then?
She'll dictate nothing. I'll allow her to speak.
You didn't allow her. She started talking over you, but go on, love.
May I add some context? May I add some context?
No, it doesn't matter. I'm allowing her to speak. If I chose to shut her down, like I just did in this moment, then that's what I would do. But because I'm a man and because I'm a king and because I'm fully my masculine and because I'll choose to do what I want to do, I'm going to allow her to continue with her statement and provide context. Regardless of what you think or regardless of your perception or your opinion, because that doesn't really mean anything to me, considering that my wife has way more cachet with me than you do.
Well, first off, you mean our wife, since you're sharing her. And then secondly, I watched your previous interviews where it was you, her, and another gentleman, or I should say another fella, and she was over talking you then. Right now, I take this as a show, which is to say that you're pretending as though you're yielding her to her, when in actual fact, we see who the true puppet and the puppeteer is. And I think that my advice to you is to come get a little bit of this ism, because the truth is, the way I perceive you right now is the type of guy who would get raped in jail or maybe even in a holding cell.
Yeah, brother, you're entitled to your perception. They're like assholes. Everybody has one. And you're certainly entitled to that. And I don't have any issue with it.
So may I share the context that I wanted to share now?
You most certainly can.
Thank you, beloved. So what I was wanting to share was that this was an interview that somebody gave me an email and invited me to, and it was a debate, as the young man says. And what he's sharing during the debate was no questions or anything. He says, what was the first person that I met? How did this all begin? I shared that I really had a feeling outside of our marriage for another person. I said, that's very normal. I started to have dreams about this person. That's very normal. And he cast into, you're having dreams about somebody else. This is absolutely absurd. This is beyond ridiculous. And then we start to talk about sperm and spermicide. And he says, oh my gosh, but what about yeast infections? And why are you so sexually promiscuous? And what is it? Just like he just did with you. He tries to gaslight his guests. So that's not a debate. That's more like a ambush. And we don't do ambushes. We've been on 14 television shows. We've written 14 books. We've been on 375 blogs, podcasts. We have been doing this for 16 years. If I'm going to be ambushed, I'm going to fight.
You've not been ambushed.
And there's nothing wrong with anger. I tried to explain to him, one of our principles in our community is that there's nothing wrong with emotion as long as it's inside a container. He didn't give me a chance to set container because he started firing a rifle when I'm on his set, and he says, I'm the rude one. So we're not going to play this game. And that's what I wanted to share with you. And that's why I called you in, because you are my protection, as well as my other husbands and partners, as well as your wives and your girlfriends. I could call all of them in here.
Well, the sad reality is that if you line up 1,000 sheep, they're still all weaker than one lion. But the truth is that you were not ambushed. You were standing up against someone with superior logic. And in face of that logic, you started trying to overtalk.
Something about the saint in the center.
Are you on the radio? You on blog? What?
I have no idea. I believe it's on YouTube or something like that.
Oh, YouTube. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So where do we go from here? Do we have an actual conversation that is intelligent?
I told you from before we even went live, I told you that you would be representing the pro, I would be representing the no, and I said I would be cutting up.
Oh,
and I was absolutely clear about that. And I stated to you television and media is entertainment.
Of
So
course.
we're going to keep it spicy. But the reality is this. You thought that you were going to be able to dominate intellectually. And I imagine you're used to this being around your beta male husbands. And then you encounter someone who is in a stronger position. And now you have to yield and you went to go get backup, but your backup is insufficient.
Right, I don't
can
even
have
know
a
your position. You've never shared your position.
We can have a civilized conversation, but it just consists of us taking turns speaking. We can both be heard and be respected.
Because I went to Howard and I was in debate club. What it starts out with is people get to present their positions.
Yes.
You haven't presented your position. I've not presented mine. You simply asked, when did my open relationship start? You didn't even introduce me as a CEO and a wife and a mother. You just said, when your relationship start, you know you're wrong. That's not a position. That's not a debate.
I yielded the floor to you so that you could introduce yourself.
What is my position?
I yielded the floor for you to introduce yourself. You may remember at the beginning, I said I would like to introduce you to Kenya Stevens, and then you said you're the CEO of Progressive Love Academy, and so on and so forth.
So what is my position? Because if we're having a debate, that you know my position and I know yours, because I don't know yours. What is your position?
You said this is the first message that was sent to her?
Yeah.
I was just provided by Bridget the first message that was sent to you. Quote, "Hi there. Would you be open to being interviewed on YouTube about your life?" About your life. Okay.
Yes. So
the person
ask me about my life. I haven't shared anything about my life.
I was going to continue speaking, but you keep interrupting.
Oh, go right ahead.
I'm perceiving you to be defensive, and if you might be willing to adopt one of these practices that we have that provides for civilized communication, it is that when the speaker has stopped speaking, you just wait 5 seconds before you start to make sure you don't over talk anyone, because it shows no respect for the speaker.
Sure, if we both do.
A rude person. I think her internet might have just gone out. I can't see her. What do you see on your screen? Is she frozen?
Yeah.
Looks like she may be having some internet connectivity issues. Saints, I think that Kenya may be having some internet issues.
Why don't you read the message out?
But yeah, the message says
1.5 million views, but I'm like, I don't know this person. I've never heard of him. I'm happy to do.
Okay, the message reads, the person interviewing has over 60,000 subscribers. He himself wants multiple partners.
Oh no, he's gone.
But feels only the man can have multiple partners. It would definitely be an interesting collaboration with your similar but different views. Let me know if we can set it up. And then we sent you the details, which said debate 5 times. I just want to let you know, I'm not here to ambush you.
I didn't see a debate fight. I don't fight.
No, I didn't say fight. I said 5 times. And what I said to you just a little while ago is, if I'm speaking or you're speaking, we would just wait until the person finishes, wait 5 seconds, and then give our response. Is that a reasonable thing? Looks like her internet went out again. Oh, it's a shame. I think this would have been an interesting conversation. Is her screen frozen on your screen as well? Okay. Yeah, it looks like she's still frozen. Okay. Okay, like I'm gonna pull her out then. All right, Kenya, your internet is frozen. We can't see or hear you, so I'm gonna pull you out of the stream real quick. Okay. Anyway, Saints, this has been really a meaningful conversation, and what you'll notice is that certain things always match up. Anytime you find a woman who is unruly, she'll always be paired with a male who is weak, because a man who's a stand-up leader will never tolerate that kind of behavior, and he will give her structure. And if she's not able to follow the structure and display respectability, cooperative nature, she's going to have to exit the structure, which is to say, be kicked to the curb. The funny thing is that the guest had showed up talking about science, and I said, okay, fantastic. You want to talk about bonobos? Let's talk about bonobos. And we want to talk about biology. Let's talk about it. Have you heard of oxytocin? I was about to explain to her how there are different levels of oxytocin, which is a bonding chemical, which causes you to feel bonded to the person that you've laid down with for intercourse. And as I start to get into this scientific argument, she was not able to handle this and became angry and started to try to overtalk me and raise her voice and increase the rapidity of her speech, thinking that this would shake me or allow her to eventually triumph. Failing to triumph, she then calls in her reinforcement, which is one of the many men who's been in her draws. And then he tries to represent her, only to have himself be overtalked by her. And that was really what I was trying to find out. To be honest with you, if someone called my line and said, hey, I'm here with your wife, and your wife has been behaving in an unruly way, I'd be in disbelief. I'd have to verify that that was even the case. But if it was made to be clear and true that she did indeed disrespect someone, I would say, hey, love, look that man in his eye and apologize right now, because that doesn't represent me. It shouldn't represent you. It damn sure doesn't represent our culture and our way. But instead, he starts backpedaling and acting as though it's a normal and acceptable and upright thing for you to not be able to control yourself when you're in communication. And here's what's worse. As a female, you should be one who spreads love, one who's a good listener, who's a nurturer, who's one who brings people together, not a destroyer. You heard the woman say many times, oh, I like to be angry. Who says that? Like, why would anyone like to be angry? That shows you that there's a clear psychological issue. And anytime you find people who are displaying weird behaviors, it's the result of trauma. When I say weird, I mean atypical, sexual deviance, or they call it alternative lifestyles. That's clearly an indication that something went wrong. And it's generally something occurring in childhood or in their upbringing. And that doesn't mean you're broken forever. You can heal from these things, but clearly she's not tried to heal. And what she's done instead of healing is that she's trauma bonded. She's trauma bonded with other broken individuals, weak males who will let her continue on in her illness rather than trying to present a solution. And when she encounters a normal, upright male, and this is what they do, mind you, you notice that there are certain lobbies, I won't name them, the Skittle folks, they never show up one-on-one. They always bring their whole clique. That's why they got all these letters, LGBTQ, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. They bring the whole letter gang to show up and descend upon you because they can't fight you one-on-one because they are weak, and they know they're weak and broken inside. And people who are weak and broken, because they know they're different than the normal, they try to get everyone to accept what they do and to behave as they behave. I gave her a chance to come on here and share her point of view. But when I started asking questions about it, and she said, let's talk science, I said, let's talk science. Then all of a sudden she got angry. Now, here's the thing. If someone tried to interrogate my way of living, I'd be happy to talk through it because it's based on reason. It's based on morality. I can't read this. What is this supposed to say?
It was where the debate was said. Just so
Yeah. No, the Saints know that the Saints know I'm not a liar. The Saints know I'm a straightforward man. And the Saints saw the title of the video said debate. And when we messaged her to start with, it said debate. You know, the real sad thing is that you got these alternative lifestyles, and we're going to address these super chats, comments, questions. These alternative lifestyles, these people call themselves life coaches. How are you a life coach or a relationship coach when you can't even maintain a casual, civil business relationship in a public forum where we're trying to have a conversation? You can't even maintain a conversation for 15 minutes without getting angry. That's childish and immature. Yet you would purport to teach other people how to have relationships. She doesn't even have a good relationship with herself. She doesn't get along with herself. Because if you can't manage the self, you can't manage relationships with others. She has no emotional control. And what's worse is that there's so much deceit. That's the era we're in. When we called her husband and we asked him about the situation, you know, she writes, am I not sure what's happening? Maybe the show's over. No, the show's not over. We want you back in. She just private messaged me. Your camera's frozen.
Can you try to add that now?
Progressive love. Your camera's frozen. I'm not kicking. I want everyone to know I'm not kicking her off the show. Her camera's frozen, or there's no audio. I'm putting her on the screen right now. She's not saying anything. We can't hear her. So she's not being kicked off because me, I don't run. This is not in my DNA. I don't run. I don't lie. I don't pretend. This is just not who I am. So when we brought her husband on the show, he starts talking. I ask him a direct question, man to man. And instead of him as a man answering the question, the pretend man answers the question, which was her. And she even has interviews where she herself is saying she used to have a large penis. She used to want to be the male. And what I warn you all about is that in reality, a tiger doesn't change its stripes most of the time. You're an exceptional human being if you actually manage to evolve. Most people don't. And in her case, undoubtedly, she is not. And she'd be wise to come get a little bit of this ism. She might know how to learn how to live happy and healthy. Shout out to Jacob, who's a member at marquettism.com. You dig? I see his membership. Shout out to Samuel Lee, who just joined as well. Shout out to Rich, who joined as well. And let us address some of these super chats. Samson writes, peace to the saints paying tuition. Isaiah writes, bruh, this woman is wild. The fuck kind of parents did she have? She got 10 years over your age, sir. Perhaps more. And with all of that time, she's not gained anything. And that's a sad reality of human development, is that whoever you are in the 4th grade is pretty much who you are. Your inclinations, your nature. There is a rare minority of humankind that is oriented on improvement, because self-improvement takes change in thinking, change in behaviors, change in discipline over time, revolutions in how you psychologically view yourself, how you view the world. That's a lot. Most people don't manage it. And that's why so much of the work we're doing is around basic mental health, because you have people like her who frankly are broken, and they don't want help. They've given up on themselves. Anthony writes, give them that ism, Quack. Oh, absolutely. She needs it. I don't think we've seen a case this bad in a long time. Shout out to Rolando, who sends through tuition by a Cash App. There's some super chats that you did not address as I asked you to. Are you able to find them?
No, it was not possible. I know Alexander Walker sent one, and he said he's glad to see you safe, and he said glad to hear Bridget back.
Okay. But you know the super chats.
They were
disappear.
$10 ones.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Thank you. Well, my apologies. I apologize to you because I'm wrong. You see how that works? People can apologize when they're wrong. It's crazy because people nowadays try to pretend as though they don't make mistakes. You see, if I make a mistake, I'll present myself for correction.
Oh, she's on here. She said maybe he's afraid to continue the conversation.
I got her right here. I just clicked add in. Maybe you can click a link again. Progressive Love Academy is on the screen. Can you? We can't hear you. We can't see you. So maybe you want to click out and pop back in. But we've not had any technical issues. Everyone can see your screen on. You're not muted. So we'd love to hear from you. I really would love to hear, because I think that we could potentially make a breakthrough right now. It's a real opportunity to make a breakthrough in this woman's mind. And if these gentlemen can learn something about being real, don't pretend to be the leader, men, actually be the leader. If a man addresses you, there's no way you let your woman stand in front and address a man. That doesn't make any sense. Just imagine we were face to face, me and this man. I'm standing 6 foot tall. He's standing whatever height he is. And he steps back and lets the small person step up to address me. That doesn't even make any sense.
Oh, good. We're back. You have plenty of time to talk badly when I'm not here. How gentlemanly and astute and upstanding.
You got a sense of humor. I give it that way.
That's so outstanding. Wow. You have so many ethics. Now let's continue our conversation.
Yes. Would you like to start? As you said, I've been speaking at length, so I'm willing to yield the floor to you, and I'll show you the respect of not interrupting you.
Okay, good. But you don't have a question for me. That's fine.
I have many questions for you.
If you ask me a question and let me respond, I think that would be really helpful to your audience and to everyone here.
Do you believe that as males and females are different, that it is the practice of a psychologically healthy female to have as many sexual partners as a male?
Yes, what I believe about male and female is that in Western culture, we've been taught that the female is sexually coy, when actually the female has a higher sex desire than any masculine. What you have to understand about Western culture is that they have lied about female sexuality. They don't know what causes female orgasm. They don't know about female anatomy. They don't understand pregnancy, childbirth. They don't understand female hormones. And they're going off of patriarchal, misogynistic science that does not include the female. They don't even know what the clitoris is. They don't know how to bring a female to orgasm. In Western culture, they have this whole thing about hysteria, and women were going crazy because they were not having orgasms. The culture doesn't know what a feminine or the female is. And so, yes, they don't understand the female sex desire, and that is 10 times higher than that of any male. Women can tell you that on the chat. Maybe women can tell you the experiences they've had getting married, like I've been for 26 years, and the husband is it wanes, where the female increases with age. So that's my answer to that.
Thank you for that answer. I appreciate it.
Sure.
There's a couple things that I have in response to your answer. Number one, you use the term patriarchal, which is to suggest male leadership. Do you not believe that the male should be the patriarch or the leader?
Mm-hmm. I do. I don't believe in toxic patriarchy. I think the Western culture, which includes slavery and genocide, is a toxic patriarchy. You can have males who are conscious and aware in leadership, and you can have males who are unconscious and unaware in leadership. Males who rape thousands and hundreds of millions of Black women during slavery, or Black men. Men who do these types of things cannot craft the culture that I'm going to follow. You understand? It's just not going to work.
Got you. Okay, so here's the thing. There are a number of things that you said that were completely errant, and I will correct them now. Number one, you used the term patriarchy as though it was a bad thing initially. Then I asked you, do you believe in patriarchy? You said not toxic patriarchy, so you put a modifier on that, and that's fair. I can understand that modifier. I would encourage you not to use patriarchy as a dirty word, because when we go away from patriarchy, then we're all lost. But here's the weird thing. You speak of Western culture. When we say Western, we're talking about essentially white European culture, that practice in Europe, North America, Australia, these kinds of cultures. I've actually lived in non-Western culture, whether we're talking about in Africa or in China or in Korea. And I can assure you that if you want to look at patriarchy, or even in the Middle East, patriarchy is way stronger outside of the West. In Muslim countries, in Arab countries, in African countries, and I don't care if you're talking about Northern Africa or all the way down to the bottom, patriarchy is way stronger. Women do not speak back. Women are certainly subject to male leadership. So that argument doesn't make sense, that it's the West that's putting forward toxic patriarchy. Patriarchy is the nature of humankind, number one. Further, you said the West doesn't understand female hormones, doesn't understand female orgasm and all these different things. That's a very strange thing to say, when in reality, the West has some of the most advanced medicine in the world today. And I'm not denying the African roots of a lot of medical and scientific understandings. But let me point out to you, when we talk about female orgasm, you mentioned the clitoris, a physical location where there's sexual stimulation for the female. In many African countries, see Sudan, if you want to go for blue-black, see Egypt, if you want to go for mixed race and Arab. All throughout these places, and even among the Habesha and East Africans and the Somalis, Black peoples, non-Western peoples, you have what they call in the West, among the people you're deriding, female genital mutilation. But among those peoples, they say, this is our culture, we cut off the clitoris because we indeed do understand that it causes this sexual stimulation, and we like to cut it off because these chicks is going crazy in pursuit of these orgasms. We find that this causes problem. And in your kind of thinking, you should clearly have issue with that, and that's non-Western. And what I'm saying to you is that it's not that the Western males or the Western patriarchy wants to suppress female sexuality. I don't think there's much difference around the world in terms of how males look to deal with female sexuality. So you're actually putting up an argument that is wildly false.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. How can I support you?
How can you support me in spreading the truth? I mean, I just corrected what you said, and now you can just state it correctly.
Well, I was wondering what type of feedback are you looking for?
No, you don't have to give any feedback to that.
Okay,
sometimes it's a mic drop. You heard me? Sometimes if somebody just dropped the truth and it's beautiful as is, we don't need to add any polish to it.
Yeah. So what I'll share is that 80% of women in the West do not have orgasm today. 40% of women in the West, women and men who are married, are completely sexless. 83% of women in the West have been molested.
I believe that.
80% of Black children live in single family homes. 70% of Black women are not married today in the West. And when you say Africa, when you're talking about Africa and African culture, are you talking about westernized Africa, or are you talking about ancient Africa? Because human history goes back 280,000 years. So when we're talking about even the most recent 40,000 years, we are not talking about the totality or even half of human history. Okay, so when we talk about human history, you're talking about the indigenous Americans, the indigenous Africans, the indigenous those of South Africa. There was an indigenous practice in Africa where women lined up the 12 men who are uncles. There was no word for father in ancient Africa. The word was uncle, because they considered every man in the community to be the father of the children. The ownership of children, the ownership of women comes during westernized Africa. And westernized by Arab nations, my major at Howard University is African Studies, westernized by Arab nations and westernized by European nations. So yes, after those influences started to come in and seep into the culture changed, and it is Westerns. You can be in Africa, but Western. So we have to understand what we're talking about. The other thing is that the way that they divide it. Oh, were you counting off? Were you wanting to speak?
No, that's just me checking if you were at the end of your sentence. You see, I counted
wasn't.
five. And if you're not, carry on. I
listened to you.
I'm just letting you know that I thought you were finished, and so I'm counting to make sure I don't interrupt you.
Okay, I thought there was a time limit. You were counting
no
down. I'm like,
go
I
ahead
didn't
and
know that wasn't told to me about a time limit.
No, I'm just giving an example of how not to cut someone off.
Sure, I just listened to your whole piece, and I asked what type of feedback you're looking for. I went a step beyond where you go.
Right. No, you're doing great, and I'm listening to you. To you. I was just making sure I don't cut you off.
Sure. With questions and without accusations, we're all going to do great. Gaslighting is gaslighting. So what I'm sharing is post-colonial Africa is what I'm talking about. And there was not an ownership of human mentality. And that goes back 280,000 years. But yes, the most recent Africa, of course. So in terms of monogamy versus polyamory, the last thing I'll say about what you're sharing, and I respect male leadership. I respect the masculine. I respect the masculine and the feminine in me. I hope you respect the masculine and the feminine in you, because you have both. That's the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, the right and left brain. You have masculine and feminine just like I do. So we got to respect that, because that's who we are. In terms of monogamy versus polyamory, there's no versus. Monogamous species have retractable penises. Monogamous species, the men do not create spermicide. Monogamous species look the same, where you cannot tell the difference between a male and a female of that species.
As you're going on to another topic, may I respond to the first part of what you said? Because you were talking
about the 80% of women not having orgasm. Yes, respond to that.
Well, not only did you say that, you're actually speaking at length. You talked about sexuality, sexual satisfaction. You talked about African cultures historically and then presently. And then you also posited that African cultures had certain sexual practices and certain matriarchal behaviors. Mm-hmm. So, and then you also stated that you majored in African American studies at Howard University.
African studies, yes.
African studies. I'm sorry, you're right. African studies.
I would just pause you. We have Musi sent a super chat. He said, "Thanks for coming back, Progressive Love Academy. I disagree with your viewpoint and your behavior, but I appreciate you coming back and continue the dialogue."
Peace to the saints. That's real. That's a meaningful commendation, because it is a very brave thing for anyone to get on this platform, to get on a public platform, and especially to get on here and think they're going to debate the big homie and win. It's amazing. Moreover, you mentioned Africa. You used the term Africa quite a few times, which is curious in as much as Africa is a big enough continent to contain 2 Europes. Mm-hmm. It is very large, wildly diverse, racially diverse, ethnically diverse. And you talked about historical versus today. Number one, when I was speaking of Africa today. But let me be clear in that even historically, Africa is extremely patriarchal. And what you're describing is a very rare occurrence. And I promise you that. And just as you speak of your studies in African studies at Howard, I went to University of California, Berkeley. I studied under Professor Mario Arriola, who's actually one of the foremost scholars in African history. I'm actually very much so aware of a lot of the major scholars in African history, where we're talking about a Sheikh Anta Diop, we're talking about a Dr. Ivan van Sertima, we're talking about an Edward Bernal. I can go on and on, Dr. Henry Clark. All of this stuff I'm familiar with, but let me tell you this. When you're talking about Africa, you're not talking about specific cultures, specific tribes. You've not really gotten into any of that. So you're speaking of them in a monolithic way. You're not talking about certain people who moved through the Bantu migrations or any of that. What I want to be clear on is we don't need to talk about the whole history of Africa. We don't have time for that. And that's peripheral to our core discussion. And when you mentioned that, you know, Arabs or Christians or whites had come into the African continent and changed culture, at some level they did. There's no doubt about that. But let us be straightforward and know that a lot of African culture is intact today. You know, let us not think that they went in and wiped out all of African culture. That would just be ludicrous. And that's not true. There are many peoples in Africa who speak the same tongue that they have spoken since time immemorial. And that doesn't matter if we're talking about people in the Congo, we're talking about people in Tanzania, we're talking about people in East Africa. And these are all places I've been, and I know for a fact, because not only did I read about it, I seen it. That's not correct. African-American culture. Good Lord, they got me in the public schools. But here's my point. We can play games about African history and all of this stuff, but let us be truthful. You are speaking of a very rare occurrence. Matriarchy was not prevalent in Africa. It was not prevalent in any society on the planet Earth. Period. Full stop.
Thank you for sharing that. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay, am I back?
You didn't go anywhere. You've been here the whole time. I think your home internet might be lagging, but you've stayed on our screen.
Oh, good. Okay. What type of feedback are you looking for on that one?
This is a good strategy you're starting to use. I find it quite entertaining.
Well,
and also let me point out to you that the other thing
my book, Up Level, it's a communication book wherein we set container. So I'm not used to the container of debate or fight. We are used to setting containers before we speak. So before I would speak to you, for instance, in my system, I would come to you and say, Marquette, would you be willing to hold space for my vent? And so in my vent, if you say yes or no, you can say, no, I'm not holding space for your vent. And then I have to go vent to somebody else. If you say yes, I say, thank you. You've done nothing wrong. This is just my ego speaking. And I'm at a level 10 or whatever level I'm at to create safety. I'm not just going to come at you with a debate or a fight. I'm always going to ask permission if I can vent from my animal and my ego. So that's our system that we've created. We've written 14, as I said, 14 books over the years.
Please do send me the links to your book so we can put it in the description so that people who want to check out your work can check out your books. And anything you want, just send it to us. Just say the names of those so they can check them out.
But that's what initially caught me off guard, because I no longer debate. I'm 47. I debated when I was 17 in college. But what I was doing was like, oh my goodness, whenever I approach somebody with my animal and with some fire, I'm going to ask their permission so that there's safety in the conversation. We call that setting a container. And then after they vent, I would say, thank you for sharing. How can I support you? That's all I say. That's my framework. So clearly we have a different framework. But what you were sharing about the different parts of Africa, everyone knows that Africa was once a matriarchal culture. Overall, Burkina Faso down to South Africa to the Twa over there in the east, and everyone knows that the matriarchal cultures transcended into the patriarchal cultures, and these are perfect because we're here to have these experiences. The universe wants all experiences, wants to experience all of the scenarios that humans have been through for all these years, and so yes, there have been all iterations.
Is there any homosexuality going on in any of the males or any of your children?
Is this you interrupting my thought, or you don't do that? You spoke.
This is me getting the topic back to the core of.
Oh, I didn't know we were talking about homosexuality. I thought we were talking about Africa.
I'm talking about homosexuality because the farther you go off of the rails, I start to suspect that there are peculiar things occurring within your household.
Sure. So your interruption was to ask a question about homosexuality. Please ask your question.
My question is, have any of your husbands or the males you're involved with or any of your children, do any of them engage in homosexual behavior?
No, but I wouldn't be upset if they did. Now, my children are all straight, which is really phenomenal. My husbands are straight. They won't even, I mean, we don't do threesomes. They're not going to sleep in the bed with me and another man. They just don't want to do that. They think it's ridiculous. They all have other female partners, and my husband has even married one of his female partners. I encourage my husbands to marry the women that they love, because women don't need to be out here as girlfriends on the side pieces. We respect all women and we respect all men. So the men that I first of all, I only attract brilliant, powerful, beautiful men. And so I want them to spread that power to other women. I'm not their only partner, but I am a partner that they can call a wife. And so we build empire in this way.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that.
There's a super chat from Jamie Smith. He said, "It's not natural because without unnatural, modern convenience, birth control, abortion, women would by necessity have far less partners than men. That's where a hoe on birth control comes from. It's true."
I think he's suggesting that your kind of behavior of basically sharing your draws with the streets is only possible because of the Western medicine that you spoke ill of.
Oh, I don't use Western medicine. I don't believe in Western allopathic medicine at all. And that's why I've never had an STD or anything like that, because Western medicine causes those illnesses. Our minds and our health and our body prevents those illnesses. The major reason that causes illness is guilt, sexual shame and sexual guilt. So I don't know what else your person said, but let's talk about monogamy versus poly in terms of science and species.
Okay.
The monogamous species on this planet, which are 4% of mammals, they have retractable penises. So that's number one. Number two, the male and the female look the same. You can't tell them apart. There will be no protruding breasts, no protruding ass, nothing that comes out that makes them look different, male to female. They only have sex on their fertile time. So monogamous species only have sex when the female is in heat. A polyamorous species have sex whenever the female wants or whenever the male wants. So these are scientific determinants.
You have intercourse on your menstruation?
Pardon?
You have intercourse during menstruation?
I personally don't, but I would like to. I just don't have a partner. The male partners that I know are not willing to do that. But with myself, I love that. I think that there's nothing wrong with menstruating people. That's how humans come to earth. And I think that if we castigate women for menstruating, then we're castigating the great mother of all things.
Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. No one said castigate. We just said we don't want the bed sheets looking like O.J. Simpson and just pulled up on the late night. That's all we're saying. I was just curious. But we're actually not arguing monogamy versus what you're doing. What we're really arguing, in my opinion, is against the idea of females basically engaging in the kind of promiscuous sexual behaviors that you're describing. And my understanding, based on what you said, is that you're very sex focused. And I posit that people who end up being hypersexualized, very sex focused, everything's about the orgasm and getting laid. I think that it's a direct result of something traumatic that has happened. And I think Freud has written a lot about how trauma manifests in sexual dysfunction, sexual behavior, sexual obsession. Because what I've found out in life, such a small portion of your waking minutes are spent on your back or in bed. The real joy of life comes from other things. So why be so sex focused?
I agree with you. I don't know where we got that I'm sex focused. I haven't talked about my sexual habits or what I do. But when I think of sex, I don't think of intercourse. When I think of sex, I think of connection to all things and beings. I think that's why I was smelling my roses. I keep them here because this is sex to me. This is sensuality. It's the appreciation of nature. It's the appreciation of life. It's the appreciation of other humans. It is the joy and the bounty of being alive. I can sit here and close my eyes and meditate myself into orgasm. Orgasm is when I connect with source. Source energy is who I am. I am creator of energy. So I can always bring up that joy. I am joy. I am anger. I am ecstasy. I am bliss. I am sadness. I am all those things. And so sex to me is the understanding of your connection with all things and beings.
So thank you for sharing that. Are there any limits to what you guys do? Because the way I'm looking at it from the outside, being frank, it just seems as though we got one queen bee, we got an infinite number of beta males. They're attached to some other loose women, and everything goes. Are there any limits to what you guys do?
Yes, we haven't spoken about what we do because you've not asked. So
I just asked you, are there any limits to what you guys will and won't do?
Yeah, so my first husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 3 children. They're all in college. So what we do is we build family and raise children. At year 12, he found himself attracted to another woman. I had already found myself attracted to another man. We never, quote unquote, cheated on each other. And so we decided to have an adult conversation about creating a new paradigm. And so that's what we did. He is free. I am free. Plus, we have our committed partnership. I have another husband who I've been with for 9 years. And so he and my first husband work Empire together. One of my husbands is an investor. The other works here at my business writing books with me. They all have other partners. I can have other partners. There's complete freedom in our empire. And I don't feel like a queen bee, although I feel like a queen bee in my own life. But I don't rule over anyone because I don't need to. I am creator. I am source.
Well, what I've seen in the interviews that you've had with your male companions is that you're frequently over talking them. And I don't know if you're lying or it was just a misstatement, but when I asked you, how did you start in this? You were also asked this in another interview and your answer was different there. When they asked you, how did you end up in this situation where you're one woman being split by a couple of guys? You said that, and instead of letting him tell the story, you told the story. You said, my husband, i.e. speaking for him, you said, my husband came to me and said, hey, I would like to have multiple women.
Mm-hmm. That was at the beginning of our marriage, yeah.
Polygyny. Mm-hmm. And then you said, well, if you want to have multiple women, I like to have multiple guys. Mm-hmm. So the actual reality of the relationship situation you have presently was a direct result, not of his leadership, but rather his yielding to what you proposed, because he wanted polygyny, whereas you wanted something different. So he basically folded in a weak position.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's a weak position, though, because he understands the power of the mother of his children, the power of her happiness. So I don't think that's a weak position for a man to be in. But yes, when we first met at Howard University, he was getting his master's degree, his MBA. And so he graduated, then I graduated. And I said to him, he said to me, I want polygyny. I've really dreamed of that. I've thought of that. I was like, I'm on board. Like, I want to get out of this paradigm. I know it doesn't work. I watch my auntie and them, all of them divorced, all of them, no more family reunions, everybody infighting. I know relationships in the West don't work. And so I told him, absolutely, I'm down with that. But then when it came down to, we were in a spiritual tradition that did that. And I was cool with all of it. But at year 4, when I had the feeling for somebody else, I said, wait a minute. This part of the game, I did not know. I did not know when I got married that I would be attracted to other people. I thought you get married, you put the ring on, and you don't feel anything.
Were you physically attracted or just, or were you physically or emotionally attracted to other people to start with?
Yeah. So here's what happened. One night we were down in the thing painting something for our community, me and this guy who I was attracted to, and he gave me a hug and we were just hugging goodnight.
Oh, he making moves.
No, we always hugged in our community. People hugged each other. Well, people touch in my community. We're humans.
Yeah, they touch it too much, but go ahead.
Yeah, we hugged like a pat hug, good night. Mm-hmm. And my body, I felt from the top of my body to the bottom of my feet, just beautiful, blissful, orgasmic state. And I said, what in the world was that? And that's what I had dreams of. And so I sheltered that because my counselor said, forget about it. So I put it on the shelf. Then at year 12, my husband had the same experience with a woman at work. And so we were able to come together as 2 adults and say, because he said, I want to be with him. I want to talk to her. I said, great, let's go to dinner with her.
Did he want to smash or did he want to be with her?
No, we don't smash. We don't believe that sex is about a penis and a vagina. Again, I've shared that earlier.
Okay, so you're saying he caught feelings.
Yeah, pornography is a bad teacher of sex. It only teaches 10% of what sex is. So we teach Tantra.
Okay.
So,
But so you're saying he was not just sexually interested in that woman, he was emotionally and all that other stuff.
he wanted to marry her, marry the woman. We don't think of having a sex partner or swinging. That's not fun to me. I'm going to have sex with somebody I don't know. I'm going to have sex with somebody who doesn't know me, who doesn't, I would never, that's not my idea of fun. I don't knock it, but it's not my idea of fun. So he wants to marry her.
Based on your stories, which is obviously I wasn't there, but based on what I'm hearing from you is that there's something in your mind that is creating so much fuzziness between your lust and that which is spiritual, that which is emotional, that which is mental, because your attraction spark point for this gentleman that you were around alone apparently was when you encountered the physical touch. And you know, the truth is that was a spark of lust. It wasn't like I'm sapiosexual and he said some deep stuff. He dropped some player game. He says some ism, or I observed the way he was operating in business, or he's a man of status and great morality. It was the physical touch started it. And one must ask and introspect, you know, like, why am I wired so that I'm just
Yeah, so I hear you.
Sex being?
I hear you. Can I support you by sharing what I realized it was?
Talk to me.
Sure. So what I realized was that when after I did the thing and the orgasm came all over my body, I was like, oh my gosh, of course I had admired him. You know, he's a drummer in our community, whatever. But what I realized later, my ancestors told me, is that he and I were together in a past life. I was going to have a baby at the time. And when I had that baby was me and his baby. I had died in childbirth.
Run that back one more time to me. Run that back.
Absolutely. So as you know, I don't know what your tradition is, but we can always have communication with the spirit world. So I have heavy communication with the spirit world. And what I found out after that hug is that he was my husband in a past life in Kemet. And my child this lifetime was his child last lifetime, and I had died in childbirth. So when I saw him again, and when we touched, I hadn't seen him, I seen him, but when we touched, the spark of that lifetime came back alive in my body. And so it was nothing to pursue this lifetime, but that's what it was.
So your child that you had by your
current husband,
oldest husband, by your first husband, was really the child of the new guy that you had hugged.
I never got with him. The guy that I hugged at year 4 in my marriage, that was the father of my son this lifetime. Does that make sense? You believe in these types of spiritual occurrences?
Hell nah. Hell nah. But I'm trying to understand real quick. Long story short, your first husband sired a child. The guy that you met in year 4, you're saying on a spiritual level, it was really his kid.
It was also his child. That spirit was our child.
And when you went to your first husband, like, hey, bro, I know you shot the club up, got me pregnant, and I produced what you thought was your child. It's really this other guy's child on a spiritual level. And he was like, okay.
No, it's beloved. In our tradition, we respect both the masculine and the feminine, or the spiritual and the physical. So we respect the spiritual. So when somebody comes to us with a spiritual knowing about something, we don't think of it as disturbing or bad or wrong. We just hear the spiritual knowing that they're having, because we respect the feminine and the masculine.
Because if you'd have came to me like that, I'd be like,
I know, you say what?
Call Maury.
Right.
And I'm gonna need a refund on everything I didn't pay for.
May I ask you
I'm doing it ain't mine dance. I'm like, call Maury immediately. Okay.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
What is your spiritual tradition, and does it connect into the spirit world at all, or is it just about the physical? Because you said my sexual thing is just about the physical, and you see that it's far beyond that. What is your tradition?
I stated that based on what I had heard from you, there was focus on the physical. I can't say what is, I can just say what I'm hearing from you. So that was my understanding based on what I heard.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was, at the time when I met that guy, I was recovering from cancer. So I had cancer when I was 23. I met that guy when I was 25. But I was recovering from cancer, and that first son that I had, the doctor said that would be my last. because I had to start chemotherapy. My hair fell out. I went into this whole thing. But again, because I'm tapped into the spirit world, the ancestors told me why I was dying. They said, you're dying because you want to be a man. You're too masculine. You're not vulnerable. You're not asking for support. You get angry instead of vulnerable. And so at that time, I had to heal that stuff in order to survive. I was given 4 months to live. So my first book is about that journey.
That's a long 4 months. They didn't know a damn thing.
No. And they said I would have no more children too. They said, we got to take your uterus out. I said, no, you don't. Because no doctor is going to touch my body and open my body and take my uterus out. I had 2 more children after that.
I want to respect your time. And so, I've been asking you questions. I'm going to give a couple minutes for the folks to send through their questions via Super Chat, Cash App, or PayPal in case they have a question for you, because they get to hear from me all the time. So we do want to make sure we can get just a few quick questions, and then we'll let you say anything that you need to say in closing, and then we'll thank you and wrap up. So we'll give some folks some time to send in their Super Chats, PayPals, or Cash App questions.
I'm getting money for the PayPal, Cash App questions. If not, you answer the questions.
Dang, you know what? That's
the bottom line here now. Come on now.
That's actually, you know, that for a spiritual person,
that's called reciprocity, baby boy.
For a spiritual person, I'm very surprised at you because of all the people we've had come on. We've actually never heard anyone say that. Oh, yeah. But I would be more than happy if someone sends in a Super Chat or a PayPal to forward the money along to you. But I will say I doubt your spirituality in as much as, you know, around here we say be yourself, be good to yourself, and be good to good people. Yeah. So to give you a little context, I've been on a lot of people's platforms. They've offered me like, hey, you want to split this? I never take it because it's just, one, it's not necessary. I don't need it. And number two, I'm doing them a favor because it's okay to do good things for other people, especially if you're a spiritual person. Sure. So I would say that for someone who positions themselves to help people, like I find that to be very disappointing to hear out of your mouth because.
Oh, I'm so sorry. How can I support you?
No, it's not about supporting me. It's about supporting yourself spiritually, because when you write books and you say you teach communication, but then you melt down while you're on here and you start yelling and saying you're angry, you don't know communication. And then when you say that you teach relationships and then you come on here and you overtalk your own husband, you don't know how to conduct a proper relationship of any type, whether it's business, professional, familial, or romantic. Good. When you position yourself as a spiritual person and you're talking about all this spiritual stuff, you know, really that's a cover and a cloak. And I hope that people are not fooled by that, because there have always been people who prefer to be in contact with the cosmos. But it seems as though you're concerned with a material dollar more than anything. And I don't have any respect to people who are like peddling, you know, living in a greater way when you live in a base way.
Well, thank you for sharing. How can I support you?
No, I'm just saying, like, it seems like you live in a very base way, but you're pretending as though that's not the case. And when I say base, I mean that you're hyper focused on sex and orgasm. You're engaging in sexcapades because you're not connected with the mental. You're ruled by the physical. And then when you're on here talking about, you want the super chats. I mean, whatever people send in a super chat, they're sending $5-10. I can send you $100 on Cash App or $200, which will greatly exceed that. I can send you $500. But to me, it would be an insult of you, because let's be honest, your time should be worth more than any of that. And so I just say that, like, I just find it disheartening, because it just seems like.
How can I support you?
Jamie writes, okay, so does she have sex with these men raw? Because naturally women have an aversion to promiscuity because of the risk of pregnancy. Modern conveniences allow them to escape this. Does she get that? I think she does.
Yeah, I would love to respond to that. And I'm so sorry your feelings I heard about that money thing. It's just what it is. I would love to support you. What I want to say about that is that I know that in our culture, women don't learn to deal with their birth control naturally. I would never take anyone's pill. I'm not on any medicine. I will never take an allopathic medicine. What I do and what I teach my daughter, who's 21, is to know when your cycle is flowing and know the 5 days a month that you can get pregnant. And you can utilize all types of oils, different tinctures and combined, like neem oil, for instance, to not get pregnant. Not getting pregnant is an ancient art. We don't need pills to do that. It's not something new. African women have always known these sciences.
Okay. We are going to wrap up. Someone sent in a quick video they want to show, and then we're going to wrap up in respect of your time. And so I'm just going to pop this video on, see what it is. I've never seen it. Let me just see real quick. Okay. I don't know if this is a cartoon or what. So let me just go ahead and play this real quick.
So you got.
Oh, let me share this tab. Sorry. Can you guys see, Bridget? You can see the screen?
Can you refresh it? I see it.
I can.
You can? Okay, great. All right.
An ambush, but it's super cute.
You're a shark, right? You're a fucking shark swimming around, and you're a man, and here's the female shark. What happens is you have to convince a woman that she should be a female version of that animal, as opposed to the 50-50 animal that she wants to be. So the fact that you're swimming around like, I'm eating motherfuckers. All right, bitch, come on. You eat what I hunt. You eat what I hunt and get. We both eat. You swim behind me in my motherfucking back stream, whatever fuck that is, whatever male sharks do. Okay? Eventually, female sharks are, I don't fuck this shit. I'm a shark too. But they're not a shark to anybody else except for penguins, seals, fucking walruses that are afraid of them. So when you come up swimming with your teeth like, right, what happens is the penguin goes, oh, here comes a shark. And what you do, instead of eating your food, you grab it and you go, you know I can kill you, right? You know I have power over you, right?
I'm gonna date you
but I'm going to let you live. And I'm going to put you on my back and I'm going to let you be this penguin who gets to. That's why a lot of pretty women hunt for like funny looking dudes and fat dudes. That's why a lot of bitches catch up to me and they just lose because they look for fat motherfuckers that they can kill. I'm not.
Okay. The Saint said that the video represents the kind of relationship that you're in, which is rather than having a shark, i.e. an alpha male, you have a beta male, which is essentially a penguin, someone outside of your species who's kind of letting you run things.
Awesome. Love it. How can I support him? Everybody's entitled to their feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have nothing to share. If that is what
Well, Kenya, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and also exercising the patience to be here and to defend your way and your view. And I also appreciate and respect that you even gave us an opportunity to talk with your husband, which was not a part of our initial agreement. That was like very considerate. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to say or share before we close down?
Absolutely. Everybody has the right to do what they want to do, and everybody has the right to their perspective and opinion. I love my life. I love my husbands. They're my kings. They've taken such good care of me and my children. I live in luxury and I enjoy my life. You guys can check me out at progressiveloveacademy.com or Progressive Love Academy on Instagram.
ProgressiveLoveAcademy.com, Progressive Love Academy on Instagram, spelled all the way out on IG?
Yes.
No spaces. Spelled all the way out, no spaces on IG. Check her out. I will say you say you're kings, but in every kingdom, there's actually one king, for the record, just so you know. But hey, it's been a pleasure for you to be here with us. Until next time, Kenya.
Kings unite. Bye. That's